Colleen.
And I'm Shelby.
And welcome to Water Wars. I'm Brooklyn Welch, and today you will find out who will win today's Water War. Our first contestant.
Hi, I'm Shelby, and I'm from Michigan, and I know water's wet.
Next contestant is.
I'm Colleen Ryan from Seattle, Washington, and I'm here to tell you water is not wet. Where I'm from, we get rain every single day. And you know what? It makes me wet, but it itself is not wet.
For our first question, explain what heat of fusion is.
Well, heat of fusion is when my curling iron curls my hair and it fuses my hair follicles together.
Okay, now for the next question. Explain what vapor pressure is.
Vapor pressure is what happens during photosynthesis when the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, just spurts out vapor, you know?
Yeah. Next question. What is the melting point of water?
You know, it's a really high temperature that I do not know at this point.
Thank you so much, Shelby Slough, for being on our Water War show. We are now going to have a short commercial from our sponsors. Perform many vital bodily functions like cushion your joints, and it's also in the organs and helps them function throughout your body. It's also the universal solvent. It dissolves most substances. We learned this in our baking soda and vinegar lab because the vinegar did not dissolve the baking soda like water would. Contestant, explain what heat of fusion is.
Heat of fusion is change in enthalpy of typically released as heat.
Correct. Now explain vapor pressure.
That would be pressure in contact with solid and liquid.
How do you know this?
We know this because of the gas lab where we heated up the Erlenmeyer flask with water outside of it and the top popped right off.
Next question. What is melting point?
The melting point of ice is 10 degrees Celsius, or 283 degrees Kelvin.
Correct. What is specific heat capacity?
The specific heat capacity of water is about 4,184 joules of heat, and how you would find that would be K minus C plus 273 joules minus 0.243 C equals Q divided by delta T. In other words, we are taking the degrees and the joules, and then on the other side of the equation, delta T change in temperature.
Correct. Next question. What is the boiling point of water?
The boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius or 373 degrees Kelvin.
Correct. Polar covalent.
That's a tough one. The polar covalent is the type of bond shared unequally between.
What is the difference between calorie with a uppercase C, and a joule?
Alright, so 1 calorie with a capital C would be a kilocalorie, or 1,000 of the small calories. It's a measure of energy. And joules equal 0.00289 of the smaller calories, and it is also a measurement of heat.
Correct. Surface tension.
Alright, the surface tension of surface film of T22K, liquid caused by the attraction of the particle in the surface layer of the bulk of the liquid and heat of vaporization. It's the amount of energy that must be added to a liquid substance and then transform a substance to gas.
Correct. Question. What are the states of matter?
That's an easy one. They are solids, liquid, gases, plasma, Bose-Einstein condensates, which is actually typically left out of most basic science lessons, but there's going to be melting, freezing, sublimation, vaporization, and condensation, which is going to allow those different states to interchange.
Correct. Next question. What is the solution process?
The solution process is actually the breaking of bonds between solvent particles, as well as breaking of bonds in context with deposition.
Correct.
In my chemistry class, actually, we did a candle lab where we were able to melt a candle. It went from a solid to a liquid, which is a very simple but good example of changes in states of matter.
Water of hydration.
Well, water of hydration is water that's chemically combined ions in a solution with the substance to actually form a hydrate.
Correct. Explain a suspension.
It is a heterogeneous mixture that contains solid particles that are sufficiently large and a part of sedimentation.
What is the difference between electrolytes and non-electrolytes?
The difference is that electrolytes are salts. They completely ionize in a solution, which produces electricity. Non-electrolytes do not go through this process and cannot conduct electricity, such as sugar or ethanol.
Correct. Next question. Explain desiccants.
Desiccants and fluorescence is the spontaneous loss of water by hydrated salt. Brownian motion is erratic, random movements of particles in a fluid. Tyndall effect is light scattering of particles, and a colloid, a very fine suspension. And finally, colloids is a mixture in which one substance of microscopically dispersed insoluble parts is suspended.
Correct! So going back to the states of matter, can you give me another example?
Yes, ma'am, I can. So the evaporation lab actually allowed certain parts of a liquid mixture to, evaporate, and it turned into water vapor, which is a different state of matter than liquid because liquids and air are not the same thing.
Correct! Another example.
Well, recently I actually did a lab where we were filtering out a condensate. We were trying to get the water out of it. And with the use of filter paper and a funnel, we were actually able to get all the water evaporated out of there after use of a little bit of heat, and we did lose mass. So water was able to change into its gaseous form.
Great example. In conclusion,
Water is not wet. I won Water Wars, and I know for a fact it's not wet.
I don't know. I just typed what was on the thing.
Okay. And the breaking of bonds. What? You wrote the same thing twice.
I cracked myself up, God.
Are you filming?